Rain drizzled softly against the cafe window as Daniel sat hunched over a chipped mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. His worn-out jacket clung to him like a second skin, and beside him, a half-eaten muffin sat waiting to be finished by his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, who was coloring on a napkin with a borrowed pen. To anyone passing by, they looked like just another struggling pair trying to find warmth in a busy city. But for Daniel, this cafe was a small escape from a life that felt like it was constantly falling apart. It hadn't always been like this. Once, Daniel had dreams, big ones. He had wanted to start his own design firm, but life had other plans. His wife left 2 years ago, leaving him to raise Emma alone while juggling 2 part-time jobs. Every month felt like a battle between bills and survival. Still, he tried to smile for Emma even when he couldn't afford another cup of coffee. As Emma giggled softly, trying to draw a heart on her napkin, Daniel glanced up and froze. There she was. Across the cafe, in a tailored beige coat and heels that looked like they belonged in a boardroom, sat her, Lena Hart. His first love. The girl he'd met in college, the one he'd lost when life pulled them in different directions. Her hair was shorter now, sleek and confident, her presence commanding attention without effort. Daniel's chest tightened. She looked successful, radiant. He wanted to look away, but memories flooded back. Late-night talks about dreams, her laughter echoing through old dorm halls, the way she used to believe in him. He hadn't thought about her in years, not really. But, seeing her now, he felt like that broke college kid again, unsure if he'd ever be enough. Lena looked up from her phone, her eyes scanning the cafe, and then stopping, right on him. For a brief moment, her face went blank. Then her eyes widened with recognition. She rose, her heels clicking against the floor as she approached. Daniel Reed. He stood awkwardly, forcing a smile. "Hey, Lena, wow, it's been a while." Her smile was genuine, but her gaze quickly softened when it landed on Emma, who peeked out shyly from behind her coloring page. "Your daughter?" Lena asked gently. "Yeah," Daniel said, brushing a hand over Emma's hair. "This is Emma. She's my whole world." Lena knelt slightly to greet Emma, who grinned shyly. Then she looked back at Daniel. "You look good," she said softly, but he could tell she saw the exhaustion behind his eyes. They sat together for a while, catching up. She told him about her company, how she'd built a small startup into a global brand. He listened, nodding, genuinely proud even as he felt the sting of comparison. When she asked about him, he hesitated before answering honestly, about his divorce, his struggles, and how he was doing his best to keep things afloat. Lena didn't judge. She just listened. As they talked, Emma suddenly tugged Daniel's sleeve. "Daddy, can I have another muffin?" He hesitated, glancing at the counter, then at his nearly empty wallet. "Maybe next time, sweetheart." Before he could say anything more, Lena stood up, walked to the counter, and returned with a plate, 2 warm muffins and hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Daniel tried to protest, but she smiled. "Let me do this." For old time's sake, the conversation turned lighter. Laughter returned, even if just for a moment. But when Lena had to leave, she placed a small business card on the table beside his coffee cup. "Daniel," she said softly, "come see me tomorrow. I think I can help." He wanted to refuse, pride whispering in his ear, but something in her eyes told him it wasn't pity. It was belief, the same belief she'd always had in him. The next day, he went, and what he thought would be a brief chat turned into a life-changing opportunity. Lena offered him a job at her company, not as charity, but because she remembered his talent, his creativity, his drive. Months later, Daniel stood in a sleek new office watching Emma laugh in the break room with Lena's staff. For the first time in years, he felt like he was standing on solid ground again. And as he glanced at Lena through the glass wall of her corner office, she smiled at him, not as a CEO, not as an old flame, but as someone who still saw the man he once was and who he was becoming again.